When it comes to your skill tree, you may be asking yourself, what exactly should I be prioritizing within my skill tree? And being at a little bit of a higher level, I thought I would use today's video to kind of show you the differences between having something very low and having something very high within each category. Just so you can see kind of what the difference between the two are, so that you can make a little bit of a more educated decision on what you're wanting to kind of focus on. Before I show you the differences, though, there are some things that you should absolutely be prioritizing, and that is acquiring the different shot types that you get by putting points into your skill tree. So, for example, if you're looking for a finesse shot, something that's going to provide you a little bit more of a rollout, you have to get control 3 to get that shot type. If you're looking for the hack shot, which I highly suggest that you get, especially if you're off the beaten path and in the rough a bit, you have to get up to 5 recovery in order to even unlock the hack shot. What I think is probably one of the most important shot types to get is the pick. And in order to get that, you have to have 4 control in the short game. It is just a much better shot out of the bunker. It's probably one of the first ones that you should prioritize to get because it's just so much better than the blast shot. I hardly ever use the blast shot. It still comes up every once in a while. Most of the time, you're going to be using the pick shot. Same with the spinner shot. You have to have at least 5 points in control. Another really good shot to have. It creates a lot more spin out of the ball. Besides the pitch shot kind of rolls out a bit. So getting the spinner allows you to spin those like pitch shots a little bit better to give you a little bit more stopping power. And finally, I suggest you at least get the Texas wedge. I only have 3 points in putting just to get the Texas wedge. It's very nice to use off the green. I like it better than your standard chip in a lot of situations. So at least just getting that, I think, is a good step to take. And some confusion, it kind of lays it out for you, but I do just want to go over it just real fast. Some of these take multiple areas in order to unlock, and the game does highlight it all for you, but there is a slight confusion around it, so I just want to go over that. So to get the gold hack, you need to have this amount of power, but you also need 5 in accuracy for driving, and also you need the 8 for recovery and approach. Once you have all of those things, then you get the gold badge for hack. And the way the badges work in the game, the different tiers of them, bronze, silver, gold, when you have the gold badge, you will get the full stats of that badge for the character attributes that you have. So you'll get the full power, you'll get the full accuracy, you'll get the full recovery for that badge. At the lower tiers, you still have the shot type to use, but you won't get the full benefits of your actual attributes that you have on your character because the badge is so low. How much that is, the difference between all of them, I am still trying to work out, but that is the definition of the different badge types and what they actually do at the different tiers of that badge. Now, before I show you the differences, and I have a specific challenge that kind of outlines this really well, I will be going over what I think you should be prioritizing. Now, this is all my personal opinion, and also this opinion is based on kind of my skill level in the game currently. So will that opinion work for you? It might not. That's something that you will definitely have to decide, but I will give my opinion on what I think that you should be prioritizing with your attributes, and you can fine-tune from there. But let's start on the differences of your accuracy and your control. And I'm going to do it with driving because I feel like it highlights the differences the most. So I've paid the cost to retrain everything back down to 0. I'm going to hop into a challenge now just so I can kind of show you what that looks like for your actual golfer out on the golf course. So here I am. This is a distance is king. It's a Cobra challenge. And essentially, you have to land it on the green within a certain distance and make a birdie. But I just want to kind of show you like what accuracy and control does. So here's our accuracy. Accuracy controls your dispersion zone. Here's the dispersion zone now for a stock 3-iron. For me, pretty big. I can land it essentially either close to the water or left side fairway of the green. Now, if I am to add loft to this, because control dictates how much loft, how much draw, how much fade you can put on a ball. So if I add loft to it, this is as far up as I can go on my loft. Now, loft and also, fading, drawing, that dictates some spin and how you can spin the ball onto the greens. So having a low control gives you this much loft and this much fade. You pretty much stay in the center box. So if I'm to hit this in, and I'll probably end up hitting a couple into this green just to kind of show, what these do for your reactions for your ball to the green. You will definitely see the difference between now and when I put everything back on. But let's hit a couple of 3-irons into this green just so you can kind of see how, with zero control, zero accuracy, how that ball reacts to the green. Here's the first shot. Pretty good one. It's drifting a little left. We get a big bounce and a pretty big roll off. Let me see if I can maybe get one a little bit more firm in the center of the green, just so we can kind of judge the roll off a little bit better. This one looks a little bit better here. So we've landed pretty firm onto the green. Full loft. We had a 241 carry. And the ball rolls off the green to a 268 total. So 27-yard rollout, and part of that was in the fairway, which is going to slow it down a little bit. So as you can see, a pretty wide margin of roll on that shot with the low control. Because again, we're not able to loft it as much, which makes a flatter trajectory, which causes the ball to roll out a little bit more. The low control also makes it so you don't get as much natural spin on the ball, so you're not able to stop the ball as good. But what's the difference if we were to have max control? How much of a difference is that? What does accuracy do to that dispersion zone once we actually increase it? I'll go back. We'll throw all of the stats back on that I currently have, and I'll show you the difference. So just a refresher of what skills I'm working with. I have max control currently, and I have 6 points into accuracy, just so you kind of know what skills I have and how that might affect what we see out on the course. So here we are back out on the course, and as you can see, accuracy now, much more localized. The dispersion zone is much smaller. Now, the way that the dispersion zone, from what I have seen, works is if you get perfect power and perfect timing, your ball has a chance to go somewhere within this dispersion zone. Now, perfects, I believe, tend to skew towards the center more, but it still can go anywhere in this dispersion zone. Any overswings or any fasts or slows will change the size of this on the fly, which then will make it so you can have more mishits. So the accuracy is very important. I'm not even max accuracy. And as you can see, the size of the dispersion zone is what? Maybe 60% of what it was with no accuracy. It makes a sizable difference. Now, if we're to loft this, if you remember before, we could barely even hit like the edge of the first zone. Well, now we can actually go halfway into the top. This is the max loft that you can add, but it is a gigantic difference in loft that you can add to the ball. And the same with how much you can fade it. Now, that's what this looks like from here. As you can see, like this is your standard, and this is how much loft you can create by having max control. Same with this. Before it was this much fade. Now you can do this much fade. which allows you to kind of bend shots to your will a little bit better. And that is all done through the control stat on your stat page. But what does this look like actually coming into the green? Oh, let's give that a run. Let's see what it looks like. Now with the loft, I am going to be getting a little bit extra distance, so I'm going to try to dial this back and try to get a little bit of a similar shot that we had with our first test in. And let's see if I can get a little bit similar results. 234 carry there. A little bit of a tailwind here too. 234 carry into a 253 total rollout. But you can already see that you have a little bit more stopping power on your shot. And a 3-iron is going to carry out a bit, but it doesn't roll as violently as it did when we had that low control at first. .235 carry. It's going to come slightly down the hill into a 254 total. So 19 yards compared to 27 that we had before. So on a 3-iron, I mean, that's pretty big. And it's even more, I mean, the lower you go, the more stopping power that you're going to get. So like if we were to come down to a 4-iron, we loft this bad boy up. Again, we have a little bit of a tailwind now instead of a crosswind, which is going to increase rollout a little bit more. This might not even reach the green. That's a ton of stopping power on a 4-iron. And for those who have been struggling with roll, it is because you need to get your control as high as possible. I have found that it definitely allows you to create a lot of stopping power just because of how drastic the difference is in your loft and fade. But that is just kind of like the difference. I just wanted to show you kind of like an extreme version of differences. 3-iron, 4-iron. I mean, those are low irons. They're going to roll out a ton. But I wanted to show you kind of like where it sits when you do accuracy and control at a higher level. It makes quite a bit of difference. In some instances, I mean, the stopping power on a 3-iron and 4-iron, you can drop it down 10, 15 yards by just having a higher control rating. Now, each case is different. You know, wind, lie, what you're coming into the green. Is it a downslope on the green? Like all of those things definitely make a difference. But hopefully this just kind of breaks down a little bit more on how big of a difference that can be for your game. And the way that these work is driving, accuracy, and control work for all driving types. So your power drive, your regular drive, all of those, this controls. Approach shots are all of your approach shots. Hack, finesse, knockdown, power approach. All of those, just regular approach. All of these stats go towards those shot types. Same with the short game. Runner, spinner, pick, long flop, high flop, regular flop shot, chip shot, pitch shot. All of these attributes go towards those. So that's how it's broken down by each tier for you. But with all this information, what do I suggest that you maybe prioritize over the course of, playing the game and leveling up your character? First thing, kind of call back to a little bit earlier in the video. Prioritize getting the different shot types that help elevate your game. First one being the pick shot. I think the pick shot runner, I've used it like twice, I think. Pick shot, I think, is the most important shot type to get in the game. So I would prioritize just getting some of these shot types, pick shot being one of them, spinner being probably the next one. So if I was to, put points for the first time, I would probably get these two pretty early, if not the earliest possible, because both of these shots are pretty important in kind of elevating your game up a little bit. For me, I would prioritize getting the Texas wedge. However, if, you're not going to be putting off of the green much, you can not get this. But I suggest at least getting the Texas wedge. It just makes things a little bit easier in certain circumstances instead of chipping, because the chippings have they have a ton of rollout in a lot of circumstances. Just getting this just kind of adds to the repertoire of shot types that you can use. Past that, there are a couple that I think are pretty important, but they do cost a lot of points in order to get, and that's the power approach and power drive. Power drive is very inaccurate, but on bigger fairways, it does add a bit of distance, so getting that is nice. Same with power approach. Again, less accurate. You can't put as much loft or fade or draw on it, but for some of those longer par fives and even longer par fours, it is nice to have so that you can, kind of put yourself in the best situation out on the golf course to score the lowest. And another good one to get, doesn't cost that much, is the hack shot. The hack shot is actually really good out of the rough in a lot of instances, and it actually generates a decent amount of spin. So having this here for you to use is nice. Now, lie percentages are not as punishing right now, so you may be able to kind of push this off a little bit, but this does come in handy in a lot of circumstances out on the golf course. So it might be something that you might want to look to get. And one more I actually forgot is the long flop. Long flop's another good one to get because it allows you to add in a ton of distance into your flop shots, and flop shots are a little overpowered right now. The accuracy dispersion is pretty big, but it is still nice to have. High flop, I've found, don't really need it as much because the way that you can kind of dial in distance a lot easier in this game, high flop kind of seems a little redundant. There haven't been times where it's like, man, I can't get it over this with just a regular flop. I need the high flop. And a lot of times you can just use the regular flop or the long flop. So for me, I found that it's kind of redundant, but long flop, very important to have just because of how powerful flops are right now in the game around the green. Past that, what should you be focusing on? From here on out, very, I think, opinion-based. It's very dependent on how good you are at the game, what you struggle with, things of that nature. For me personally, though, I have found that just having power right here where it's at, 5 into it, has been pretty good for me. I've been shooting very well. I may go up 1 notch eventually, but where it sits now, using specs, which I'll have another video going over specs and like where you should focus everything with those. I can drive the ball over 300. I really don't have problems getting into most par 5s, and I only have 5 power. I think that is kind of a good place to shoot for and just kind of sit for a little while, just because of the way the spec system works and how much that it adds to your character. I'm okay being here at 5 power. I think the majority of focus should probably be in getting your control up. A big thing that I've seen a lot of people, complain about is the amount of roll that occurs from a lot of their clubs, and getting the control up on those really, really, really mitigates all of that. I'm able to stick a lot of greens. I'm able to reduce rollout for a lot of my 4 irons, 5 irons, 3 irons even. There's been times at certain courses where the greens are so soft, I can actually plunk down a 3-wood pretty well. Having the ability to draw and fade a little bit more, especially on approach shots and drives, for some of those kind of tricky greens that you get on par 3s, is also nice to have. So for me, I've been focusing mainly on getting my control up as much as I can. And as you can see, I've maxed it out in 2 categories. I'm still messing around with the short game to see how much it actually applies, like with chips, pitch shots, spinners, how much spin it actually increases by increasing control. So far, though, it seems like a bit. So maxing out the control to give you a little bit more spin and control. Funny how that works. Around the greens and on your approach shots is pretty key. For approach, I've also tried to maximize out accuracy as much as I can. I want my input to matter more than the RNG role of hitting in the dispersion rate. So the tighter I can get everything, the better. So for me personally on approach shots, I've tried to max out my accuracy as well. Recovery is just there just to get the badge, the shot type that I want. But the accuracy is very important to me because I want my approach shots as close as possible. Accuracy on driving doesn't mean as much, and I might actually move this down eventually a little bit just because it's fairly easy to knock it into the fairway on your drives. And if you do go off into the rough, unless it's a really long par 5, you can actually recover pretty easily in this game going off the beaten path. So accuracy in driving isn't as important, and I may move that around a little bit. This was kind of just like, oh, I got a couple of points. Let's just throw a couple of points into driving. So that you could probably lack just a little bit, unless you're really struggling off the tee. Then, of course, definitely put some points into this. But for me, control is the most important, especially off the tee on par 3s. In the short game, the dispersion is nice, but my putting has got to a point where it is pretty good. So the additional 2-3 yards that I may be off on some of my pitches and spinners and flops hasn't been as big of a problem for me. But that may be something if you struggle with to maybe put a couple extra points in. Again, the points that I'm using here are mainly just to get badges, to get those different shot types. I'm more worried about my drive. I'm more worried about my approach shot. If I have a good drive and a good approach shot, I won't need my short game as much. So I have prioritized my stats into those things. And again, because I've prioritized my stats into those things and I'm trying to get closer to the pin on my approach shots, my putting has kind of gone to the wayside. I did have my putting up here, and for me personally, I didn't find a difference between that and this. I'm still putting fairly well. I'm still making a lot of putts. And because of that, I'm like, do I need to waste an additional 8 points on my putting? For me, it didn't seem worth it. So I've moved it down here and again, moved all of those points up into my approach accuracy, up into my driving control. That's the way that I've kind of just moved my points around dependent on how I've been playing and what I've been seeing over the course of my playtime. But just to recap, what I would do if I am coming in fresh to the game, prioritize badges to get shot types that just make your game better and make it more accessible in certain circumstances, getting those additional shot types. For me, I would prioritize control. I would prioritize accuracy, and then kind of just fine tune from there on what works for me and what doesn't work for me. But I hope that this video kind of, shed a little light on the skills and how the skills kind of factor into gameplay. And hopefully this maybe helps, get you started on a path of what you are wanting to do with your skills as you dive deeper into the game. That is it for today's video, though. I will be coming out with a couple of additional tutorials, hopefully this week. One on putting without beads, if you're looking to maybe get into some of the sim setting seasonal tournaments. Also helps with just your putting overall, because the beads are kind of broken right now. So kind of understanding the way the greens work without the beads actually will help your putting overall. So I'll be having a tutorial coming out for that and how I kind of attack no beads. And then I'll also be having another tutorial or more information-based video coming out on specs, what I would prioritize, where you can find them, how you can get them, and whether you should go out and, waste 18,000 coins or however much they are for some of the legendaries in the store. But thank you so much for stopping by and watching this video today. I greatly appreciate you. If it did help you, if you did find it informative, if you enjoyed this content, make sure to leave a like on the video. It helps push the video out into the algorithm, which helps promote my channel, and I'd greatly appreciate you if you did. Subscribe to the channel for, again, more tutorials, more gameplay as well. Make sure to check out my latest gameplay round. I played the sim settings seasonal tournament. I'll put a link down in the description. I'll also put a link up in the corner if you want to check that out. Past that, I hope you have a great rest of your morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are in the world. And I will catch you on the next one.